Let's be honest. We all love coming from behind. Everybody loves coming from behind. It's fucking fantastic. It makes for a better story. And I'm not talking about it in that way, you dirty buggers, right? When I'm talking about coming from behind, I'm not being crass or gross or anything like that. Mick Liston, I know you're going to be watching this. Not in that way. I'm talking about being the underdog. I'm talking about coming from 20 points down at halftime to go back on it and win the game, to being the guy who has absolutely no opportunity, no one counts him in, no one thought he was ever going to do well, and then coming out to be the best in the world. You know, Michael Jordan style, Gilbert Arenas style, Balmain Tigers back in the Benji Marshall days, that sort of style. If you like coming from behind, you're going to find this really, really interesting, right? If you like being the underdog, I think you're going to find this particularly interesting. I think it's going to change the way that you look things in a very, very big way. That was always me. So from a very, very young age, I always thought that being the underdog, being the guy who for example, in cross country when I was at school, right? I was a decent little cross country runner when I was like 10, and I remember going to regionals, and I remember going there and having my chest held out proud because I was one of the few people that didn't have to train and yet still made it to regionals, and I ended up doing pretty well in regionals and just kind of like slightly missed out on states, right? Without any training at all. And I thought, oh, what a great underdog. Look at all these other guys who are training really, really hard, and they're doing all these things, and they're putting all this time and effort in, and I'm beating most of them. That's pretty good. And I thought that was great. The same thing happened in my bodybuilding career. You guys have probably, know I've done a lot of bodybuilding. I competed all over the world. And when I was 20, I was the best in Australia for my division. I was 20. I was natural competing against guys who were on steroids, or I wasn't taking steroids. I was competing against guys on steroids. And I used to pride myself on that. I used to pride myself on being the underdog. I used to pride myself on that. And at the same time as well, when I got onto the international stage, I also refused to take steroids, even though I was competing against guys who were 10, 15 years older than me. Some of the guys I competed against had kids that were my age, right? These dudes are way older than me. They've been lifting for way longer than me, competing for way longer than me, taking way more gear than me, all that sort of stuff. And yet I still chose not to do steroids because I wanted to be the underdog, and I want to be the guy that went and beat all those dudes. And here's the thing that ended up happening, right, is that in each of these instances, I lost, right? Every single time that I was the underdog, I lost. In the times where I was the top dog, I won. So there were times early on in my bodybuilding career where I was better than everybody, right? I was better than everyone because I put my whole life into it. I was better than everyone because I had a better coach than they did. I had better resources. I had a better team supporting me. I had sponsors. Everybody was backing me to win. And I was the favorite horse, and I ended up winning. And every single time, pretty much where I was the underdog, I lost. In fact, not one single time ever where I've been the underdog and acted like the underdog have I actually ever gone on to win. Ever, ever, ever. And I was thinking about this today, and this applies to a lot of us in the way that we think. In our society, we like to glorify the underdog. We like to think about, looking on those fucking bullshit Coach Carter movies, and we like talking about all the stories of how this team came back from 3 tries down. Actually, there is one time, now that I think of it, where I did win. I was playing rugby for St. Ignatius Old Boys in the Suburban Rugby Cup. I can't remember the name of it. The Barbell Cup, that's it. Back when I was in Sydney, I was playing with those boys, an awesome, awesome team, bunch of awesome guys, and we were like 27, 28 nil down, I think it was, and we ended up coming back on to win 42-35. I think that was the one time we won when I won my grand final, and that's it. And we still talk to this day about how fucking incredible that win was, that we came from behind and how awesome it was and how great it was. But you know what would have been even more great? What if we just fucking led the whole time? What if we were just winning the whole time? What if we were the favorites the whole time? You see, when somebody loses 40 kilos of weight, people celebrate and they think, oh, fuck, this is fantastic. Well done. Nobody expected you to lose this weight. And here you go. Well done. You've lost 40 kilos. And it's fucking awesome. But how often do we applaud the person who has never put on the weight in the first place? How often do we applaud the person who has been consistently ahead of the A game, who's always shredded and jacked and crushing life? Very, very rarely. In fact, we often talk them down, don't we? And so you see this weird fascination that we have with being the underdog and celebrating the underdog, and always coming up against the odds. And I think this fucks us over a lot. This thought pattern is the reason why we lose. I have lost so much because of this thought pattern, right? All of those athletics carnivals I lost where I shouldn't have lost. All those times in sports, all those times in bodybuilding where I lost because I shouldn't have lost, right? All these instances where I had the opportunity to be the top dog and to be that person where I didn't take and I ended up losing, every single time. It's because I chose to be the underdog and we glorified it. I mean, even as I was doing research and learning for this, because I've got some stats coming up in a sec, even as I was researching and learning this, I was looking at how often do sporting teams come from behind to win. And when I go through and I look to research it, guess what the titles are? The greatest comeback victory of all time, the most underrated team of all time to be successful. And it's always glorifying the underdog every single time. And so I had to literally research through fucking pages of Google to find any hardcore statistics. How many times do these underdog teams actually win? How many times is it that when you're losing 20 points down at halftime, do you actually come on to win? And I got some stats for you. In the NBA runs a final series, right? Going for the grand final where they have a best of 7 series. And anyone that has been 3 games down, none of them have gone on to win. If they're 3-0, they've lost the first 3 games out of 7, none have gone on to win. In the NBA, from the period of 1996 up to 2016, 97.2% of teams lose when they are 20 points down at any stage in the game. In baseball, the first person to score the first run wins 70% of the time. In the NHL, 31 out of 325 games, which were losing which had lost the first 3 games, ended up losing, right? Ended up winning. Back into the NBA again, if the home team is trailing by 6 points after the first quarter, right? By 6 points after the first quarter, they're down to a 41.5% chance of winning. If it's by 12 points in the first quarter, they're down to 30%. In the NRL, right? If you give up an 18-point lead, you have a 90. So if you have an 18-point lead, you have a 92% chance of winning. So if you give up an 18-point lead, you have an 8% chance of winning. So why the fuck do we ever glorify being an underdog? Being an underdog is statistically stupid, isn't it? It is really, really ridiculous. In not one instance in there is the underdog more likely to win than lose. Not one instance in any of these stats. And that's what I brought up. And this goes on and on and on for every single sport. You even look at companies, people who go bankrupt. Do they have a higher chance of going on to be successful? I mean, we look at a lot of people who failed 16 businesses, and then on the 17th, it ended up going on and being a massively successful biz. Does that mean that it's probable? Does that mean that you have to fail 16 times in order to succeed on the 17th? Does that mean that you should fail that many times? No, it fucking doesn't. In fact, there are 2 things that we should take out of this. Number one, if you are failing and if you're down 20 points at halftime, know that there's still a chance that you can win. It's not all over Red Rover. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But the second thing that we should take away is that fuck being the underdog. Why would you ever, ever, ever want to be the underdog? I want to be the top dog every single time. My mission in life right now is to stack the cards, stack the odds in my favor. We always want to have the odds in our favor. Think about this glorification that we have for underdogs, right? I get a lot of people who talk about they want to go and be self-made. They want to do things by themselves. They want to trial and error and figure stuff out. I hear terms like that being thrown out all the time by different guys who want to fix their energy, their testosterone, make more money, all this sort of jazz, right? And I hear a lot of people say this stuff. And this is coming back to the underdog. This is about them showing it and proving it against all odds that they're going to be successful. Well, I have the fucking stats right here that you're probably going to fail, right? And every single time that you set yourself up into that underdog persona, you are probably going to statistically lose. This isn't my opinion. This is statistics. This is facts. This is data, right? Any time where you position yourself for the underdog, you are on average going to lose 90% of the time. Now, if you were playing a card game, you're playing anything, and you were gambling, right? And you knew that you had a 90% chance of losing, right? Would you still play that? If it was right in front of you, every single time you went to roll that and you put down $100 with your roll and you said, 9 in 10 times I'm going to lose this, but 1 in 10 I'll make it back. Would you take that bet? No, of course you wouldn't, because it's fucking stupid. So why do we ever do this ever? Do not ever be the underdog. Don't do it. In business, I hire a lot of mentors, right? Why? Because I want to stack the odds in my favor. And the way that I think about life and I think about anything is that if I go and hire the best people in the world to teach me how to do things better, my business is going to be better. And so far, it's worked very, very well for us, right? Very, very well. I do the same thing in jujitsu. I do the same thing with my health. I do the same thing in absolutely everything. I systematically go out and pick the best people at things that I do. I go in for acupuncture every single week. I go and get like a soft tissue release around certain joints that I'm working on every single week. In jiu-jitsu, I go to this phenomenal club where I'm learning from, and I'm years ahead of where I should have been, all because I'm surrounded by absolutely phenomenal people who are absolutely brilliant at what they do. I'm constantly systematically stacking the odds in my favor so that I can win. Why? Because winning is so much more fucking fun than losing. Okay. And one thing I'm going to challenge you to do is this. Do you ever think of yourself as the underdog? Are you ever that guy who wants to come back from 20 points down all the time? Are you that guy who wants to be able to prove that you can do it all by yourself? And you can beat all those people with those fancy mentors, getting all that coaching, getting all that help. Do you want to be the dude who can beat them? Or do you want to be the dude who is them that actually ends up winning? Because if you're the dude that wants to come from behind and you want to be the underdog, you are statistically going to lose 90% of the time. Right? Statistically, you're going to lose. You're not going to win, right? That's going to happen. Maybe you win once, but then the next time you'll lose, right? For every one time you win, you lose 9. Do those odds sound good to you? Now, I don't know about you, but losing isn't much fun. Losing my health, losing relationships, losing time with my little one, losing money, losing it all. It always fucking sucks. Like nothing is ever fun about losing. So why not prevent it? Why not stay ahead of the game? With one of my mentors by the name of Charlie Valla. I meet with Charlie every single week, and I will be working with Charlie for a very, very long period of time. And if Charlie ceases to work, I'll be working with someone like him. And with Charlie, a lot of the time when we go and we talk, I don't actually have a problem to go and solve with Charlie. Charlie's a business mentor, a very, very good business mentor, and he's taught me a lot about how I can run my business better, how I can over-deliver, how I can look after my team better, incentivize people better, get more performance out of everyone, perform better myself personally. And a lot of the time when I'm talking with Charlie, I'm not solving problems. I'm not playing catch-up footy. See, a lot of guys, when I've worked with them and people we know, they'll come to us and they'll be playing catch-up footy, right? They'll be addicted to drugs. They'll have a business which is going bankrupt. They'll have all these things which are going wrong, right? Which are really, really difficult. And then we go and we help these guys out of this situation, which we have a very, very high percentage chance of doing. We help them out of this situation and get them better. And then one of the very common things they'll say is they'll be like, "Oh yeah, cool, I'm good now. Thanks for solving all those problems for me." And they'll say, "Cool, see you, man. We'll catch up with you soon." And we catch up with them in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And then they're back to the start again with all these problems. They can't play catch up footy. And it's this constant cycle of going around and playing catch up, being addicted to catching up, being addicted to being the underdog because it feels good when we have all these problems to solve. And so I looked at this and I thought, fuck that. That's stressful, right? I don't want to do that. I want to be in front all the time. And so what I do with Charlie is I work with him routinely, religiously, every single week, catching up. And he has this expression is that these mentoring sessions should be like paint drying, because we shouldn't be here and being excited about solving all these problems that everything's breaking. No, what we should be doing is we should be planning for future problems that could potentially go wrong and fixing them before they even happen. We want to be on the front foot. We want to be playing the game 20 points ahead. And in fact, my whole job, everything that I do here at JCF is how do I keep us 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 points ahead so that nobody can ever catch us and nothing can ever, ever go wrong. And I'd implore you guys to do this. Ditch the underdog mentality. Unless you want to be like Jimmy Cant, who didn't train for cross country and never fucking won. Or you want to be like Jimmy Cant, who didn't take advantage of every single opportunity he could in bodybuilding and never got to number 1 in the world. You'd be like Jimmy Cant or any other fucking instance where I've failed because I've wanted to be the underdog, right? You can go and be like that if you want and you will lose. Or alternatively, you can take a leaf out of this book and play the game 20 points ahead. You can play the game so that you're always winning. You're always on the front foot. So that in terms of any area of life, in business, you're always winning. In terms of your health, you're always winning. In your relationship, would you rather go and see a relationship counselor when your relationship's fucking awesome with your wife? Or when it's going to shit and you're fighting every single day and lawyers are throwing notes across to each other talking about who's going to get custody over whose kids? Would you like to go and hang out with your kids? Would you like to learn how to communicate with your kids? while things are really, really good with them and you're having an amazing time and you're enhancing your relationship? Or would you rather learn how to communicate with your kids when you're not talking to them, when they don't want to borrow of you? Like, fuck that. Which way do you want to play from? Do you want to play from 20 points ahead or 20 points behind? And that's the choice that you've got. If you choose to ditch the underdog mentality, you will win 90% of the time. But if you choose to keep it, you're going to lose 90% of that time. On that note, guys, I'll leave you all to it. Feel free to reach out and chat with us on this. I know this is a bit of a controversial issue, but fuck being an underdog in any area of your life. Fuck being an underdog in your relationship, with your wife, with your partner, with your husband. Fuck being an underdog in business, in your money, in your career, in your finances. Fuck being an underdog in your health. And fuck being an underdog to your kids or your friends or the people that matter most to you. I'll leave you to it, guys. Speak soon.